And welcome to Appeal Yourself Off the Mat Monday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest. Thrilling sports weekend all the way around. So many different things to talk about here on the show today. Hopefully your wagers came out okay. I am under the auspices of a loser leaves town proposition that I made as my bet of my lifetime, my best bet, my cinch of the century. Went up in flames in one of the worst, most embarrassing, indignant performances I've ever seen by a Miami Dolphin football team as they take it on the chin. Never raised a gallop in a 31-6 defeat to the Cleveland Browns. I had stipulated that if they lost getting 2.5 points, that I would exit the premises here and go reveal myself somewhere later on down the road during the week from parts unknown where I'll be coming to you from. But it did not turn out well. And when you lose the game of your lifetime, how do you ever make another selection? So we'll persist, though, because we have Mike Jones here, who, speaking of which, wow, you talk about turmoil and inner confusion. Up 19-0. I believe it's a streak of 1,602 games where an NFL team has been up 19 points or 18 points or more with 6 minutes to go in a ball game. In the last 1,602 times that situation has presented itself, the team that was up 18 points in that spot never lost. That has changed. And I'm in great admiration of you, Mike Jones, as we welcome you to the show, that you were even able to show up today. I don't know how you're able to. After the Giants lose from you talk about an insurmountable lead. I understand 19-0 wasn't necessarily it, but they had this game. They're closing it out. And then on top of that, after Denver mounts this miracle comeback, they still take the lead in the ball game, only to be finished off, and you could see the writing on the wall. I don't know that you ever would bow your head in prayer hoping to see Guy Gano again, but your Swedish kicker looked like he was the kicker from the replacements, that guy, that goofball that they had from England. The Giants take probably, the most astounding loss of the season. Big Gunner, are you okay? That would be question number one today. Are you all right?
Yeah, I walked out where I was watching the game. I go out to these games because I'm budgeting and doing different things, but I left as soon as they made the play down the sideline and spiked the ball, got it down with 2 seconds left.
Were they giving 3 shots of Thorazine at this bar?
Yeah, there was no shot enough big at the bar I could have taken. There was just, it was just one of those. I just left and I walked away from the people I was with without saying goodbye and stuff. I just was so disgusted. But is this not the greatest form of reality TV, Jeff? Like, where else can you get a 3-0 team 4 weeks ago coming in to play a hapless team with a rookie quarterback and we beat them? And then we go on a road to play a winless team that there's no chance we should lose and turn it over 5 times and get beat. Then we play our nemesis on a Thursday night national TV game, which we haven't won a game in 30 years on national TV on a Thursday night, and we destroy the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions. And then we go out and have an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter and pull an unprecedented loss like out of your hat. You can't make this up. That's what the best part about being a Giant fan is, you sit there. But I'm going to come up with some positives. If you had told me that I was lining up for a game-winning field goal from 35 yards on Saturday night and said we were going to be within 2 and have a lead, I would have said I'll take it. To know that how we played for 3 quarters, I'll take it. But the problem is when you put pressure on your coaches and your organization to make moves, it's going to filter back to every move you make. And I feel that Brian Dable coached that game not to lose. And when you do that, it's like prevent defense, you lose. We're not the Dolphins. We're not the Raiders. We're not going out there getting beat like destroyed. We were beating a team that was a really good home team and beating them up for 3 quarters and found a way to make plays. But I can tell you that when you get into a situation where you just don't have that winning aura about you, that's it. And let me ask you this. You got the 3rd pick in the draft who wants to wear 56 like Lawrence Taylor. You have an all-pro defensive tackle in Dexter Lawrence, and both are not on the field in that final series. Are we winded? Are we out of shape? What is happening at that point? But if you could see that, you got to make sure that on that 3rd down when Dart throws the interception that you run the football. Tiki Barber went on a tremendous rant on WFAN about what gets him mad is when coaches take games away. We try to be too cute. We try to outthink the other side. We go to the analytics. We listen to the Ivy Leaguer in the front office who never played the game. To me, it's like, stop all the emotion. I don't care you're up 18. Don't taunt the crowd like you see. Play the game to the end and finish the game. And that's what good teams do that. Patrick Mahomes yesterday, if you watch that Raiders and Chiefs game, and I like the Raiders, and they give you all the points why. In that first quarter, you knew that game was going to end. He's throwing blind passes to people. Rashid Rice is going crazy. The Raiders can't make a tackle, and you're sitting there going, you better get on a live bet at 18.5 because this game is going to get far away from the Raiders as possible. And that's what a great team and a great player and a great leader does in Patrick Mahomes.
And a great gambler who's really changed his philosophy here. Instead of just taking the beating, the licking, and being dead wrong, you take advantage of it.
No, but you know what it is? But again, the eye test sometimes doesn't work all the time. But here's the thing. I basically give out a statistic, which you can't believe all the statistics, that if you play the Jets the next week, you're 0-5 against the spread. And who played the Jets a week ago? Denver. The Giants were never not covering that game. They were in the game right from Jump Street. So it's like,
you had in the back, yes.
Yeah, so you look at that stat, and I'm like, but I'm not going to take the Giants because I know our history, and I don't think that's right. But you got to look at, there's some things you could see that you look at. That line kept going up and up and up and up and up. 8.5 it went off at. It's like, oh, those are the smart people that move those lines. Are they the smart people? They don't know that. They're not thinking that they're
broke people today.
Yeah, right. And so, but that's, to me, that's the interesting part about watching football. I mean, look at the Packers. I'm watching the Packers. Like, who was Jordan Love? They find a way to win that game. They get 6 sacks. They closed the game out when they had to. Jacoby Brissett right now has played 2 games with 2 covers as 7-point dogs, right? Against Green Bay, who could be the best team in the NFC, and the Colts, who right now, I think, and I said it last week, and I'll keep going. If you don't put Daniel Jones in the MVP conversation, he's not even talked about because his name is Daniel Jones, and they remember how he played against the Giants. But I could tell you, I watched that game. It was side by side last night. He was lights out. He put on as good a quarterback performance I watched than any quarterback I saw all day yesterday and probably for the year. He's been consistent. He's being protected, and that's what you have to do. And I'm telling you, that's what I'm seeing yesterday as I watch all these games. Everybody liked, I saw the sharps on Tennessee, right? What is New England? Mike Vrabel wants to put it on him, right? Hey, he gets out of your chance. They make some plays. Drake May. It looks like all that quarterback class from last year. Here comes Drake May. It looks like he's playing the best of all of them. So the guy that was last to get on the field, right, other than Jim McCarthy with an injury, he's the guy that all of a sudden is starting to get it going. It looks like he's starting to quarterback. And again, it's coaching. You bring in Mike Vrabel, and you get something going in New England. So yeah. And then yesterday, you know what's really funny, Jeff, as I look at this. I'm one that's been around the block for so long that you kind of want to look at lines and say, like your game, Cleveland. Miami is the better team. Why is Cleveland 2.5? You study the line. I could see the Miami bet there. I just like Cleveland because I thought the weather was going to be bad, and I just don't like what I see from a psychological standpoint where the Dolphins are, right? Everybody's on the Saints. They're telling me, oh, the Saints are just not. Saints haven't covered 10 points in a road game all year, right? So it's like they're really good there, but they're playing these games at home that they're sneaking backdoors and being competitive. Oh, the Bears have a huge win they shouldn't have had. I'm looking at what the Bears are doing there. It's obvious they're playing better teams and a better schedule, and they're playing well. But that line went from 6 down to 4.5, 4, some 3.5s. Wise guys pulling it down. Oh, let's be cute and bet the Saints. So yesterday was one of those games where I look at these lines and I'm going, Tennessee's going to blow out this. I can't take it. Chicago's going to blow out the New Orleans. I gave that out for all the people in Vegas. I'm not too sure about that, although I picked it on the show. Sometimes you stick with your gut and look at this. And the one thing I see, and when you analyze all this gambling now, is they really move the lines off to certain people. They don't really take into consideration what really is going on, I think. The algorithms are telling you this, that the dogs, they want to bet, they shade those underdogs. So you get some real prices sometimes with the favorites. Last year, I'll give you this, moneyline favorites, the last 3 weeks of the NFL season were 40-8. Only 8 underdogs, unprecedented, 8 dogs, one outright last year in the final 3 weeks of the season. That usually doesn't happen. Teams bear down. But now you have a different angle, different ways of looking at it. But it was a very interesting day in the NFL, capped off by my team and my little hair. If you noticed, I had to put more Grecian formula.
Well, I was worried about you today, and I literally, and we have to applaud Mike Jones, people out there, the fans of the show, and his appearances here on Bury Your Bookie, because I thought we were going to have to envision you with a nurse standing behind you, one of those portable IV units with a dilaudid drip, maybe wearing a double diaper bag around the waistline there, because I thought you would be just an absolute shell of yourself, that the English patient would have been in better shape as he was checking out there in that hospital than you were this morning after this Giants come from behind, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory when they had it in the bag, and an unprecedented, or seemingly so, 1,602 games of having a situation like that. When you do the math, up 18 plus with 6 minutes to go, 1,602 times that team has won, and here we go on 1,603. You end up a loser. Now the Dolphin game was a disgrace. So we talked about that. The NFL, very interesting, but wow, I mean, so much ground to cover here. You also had the Miami Hurricanes, another hometown team, go down to Louisville, get handled in that ball game. And one of the things I know that's upsetting to you, and it reared its ugly head in this Atlanta game last night against San Francisco. You love to rail on these Ivy League geek analytic guys, which, you're calling up to the press box there to some guy named Irving, who, as you said, wouldn't know football from a bowling pin, but he knows math really well. And he's calling down to a coach who's been this grizzled veteran who's gone through Pop Warner football and high school football and college football. He's been in the pros. He's bounced around. And you have a guy making a decision instead who says, well, you know what? If you kick the field goal here, your chances of winning the game are 59%. But if you go for it and make it on 4th and 1, your chances of winning the game are 60%. And we saw this a couple of times. I mean, that stand out to me. You had Atlanta in a position to tie the game at 13 apiece. And they opt to, after getting stuffed on a 3rd and 1. Everybody loves the idea. Don't be a wimp. Let's go for it. I understand the macho mentality of, well, if you can't make 1 yard at any time, then you probably don't deserve to win the game. But you have to play the dynamic of the scoreboard also. And the same thing happened in the Hurricane game when the Cristobal factor reared its ugly head. You have a scatter-arm quarterback who's throwing a ball all over the field. He's already thrown 3 picks. You miraculously, because of a turnover and a subsequent run up the middle that went for about 40 yards, you're right back in the game here, and you get the ball back, and you have a chance. You're already in field goal range, and you have a chance to either take the game to overtime, a game that was hopelessly lost just a few minutes prior, or maybe take a shot into the end zone, but you're thinking you're going to run the ball the rest of the way. Throws a pass out in the flat, gets picked off, and that's the end of the ball game. It goes to Louisville. And the same thing. The momentum was clearly with the Falcons last night against San Francisco. I'm kicking a field goal there after getting stuffed on the 3rd and 1 and saying, listen, are we better off being in a tie situation or risking the possibility with a pass play that was not even close to being completed of handing them the ball and a momentum back at like the 35, 40-yard line? Kind of crazy because you're looking at a 50-plus yard field goal. But nonetheless, I mean, that's become a chip shot in the NFL now until you get out to like 55 and plus. It seems like those are almost automatic. But I'm taking a shot on tying a ball game there, as I would be making sure that I did no worse than having a shot at the game-tying field goal in a Hurricane Louisville game. And yet somebody's up there in the booth saying, I think you ought to go for it. And how do these guys defer to that kind of decision-making when everybody that's ever watched 1 second of sports is screaming, no? Either tie the game here or make sure that at no worse of a position you'll be in than having a chance to tie the game and send it to overtime in a Canes game. And you're seeing this time and again, Mike Jones. I know it infuriates you. I'll let you tee it up.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the 2 plays in the Atlanta game. You run a pitch wide, which you struggle with Bijan Robinson on 3rd and 1, and he loses a half a yard basically. You're not blocking him. He's getting hurt all night. I think he's averaging less than 3 yards a carry. San Francisco stepped up without Fred Warner and played a tremendous defensive battle. They come at you. They hit in all forces. I just looked at it like, okay, so now you're in field goal range. You tried to get the first down, take the 3, and I'm seeing him getting a 4th down. But here's the kicker: your best player's sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah,
like Robinson goes out of the game. Now I grade Algiers are a short yardage running back, but aren't you basically telling them what you're going to do or whatever? Now you're going to fake and throw a pass. Meanwhile, Michael Penix before the half takes an intentional grounding call, gets a 10-second runoff. All he's got to do is throw that ball deep in the end zone. How does a guy who's played all this time in college, all these 8 years of college football, come out and do this? Kirk Cousins doesn't make that play. And you get so upset at all this, and I just get frustrated with that. 3 points is a big deal. It changes what your decision making. You're in a tie game. Instead of that, you might kick the field goal. But here's the other thing about kicking that field goal there, Jeff. What happens at 13-13? Does Mac Jones have to take the ball in his hands and now they're throwing more? When you're up 13-10, you're grinding out with the run, and McCaffrey was having a night. Does Shanahan change his play calling? He's in a tie game instead of trying to protect the lead. Your defense is gassed. Now you have to stop the run. You have a team that's been running the ball on you all night. You set your defense up for failure. Now they run 6 minutes off the clock and get the touchdown. The game's over.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. You're leaving your team by being a one-score game in the game and making a decision on the other side of the field different. That's where I think these things through, because I have to say I watched 5 million games in my lifetime. And I always listen to Bill Parcells, the great Bill, who told me he never watches another game. And I asked him why. And I was a young kid who asked him why. He said, I don't need to see what anybody else is doing. I'm only concerned with what I'm doing. He said, you can watch anyone want. And I used to always watch every game when I had a possibility of watching a game, because I was learning the game at that point. And I can tell you, man, when I watch these games from a gambling perspective, but I really think about it more from the kids' perspective. Like yesterday, I feel like the Giants gave an extreme effort. I think they were completely gassed in the fourth quarter. The altitude got to them. You could see it. But when the coaches take the game away from the kids, that's the problem I have. That's what kind of Cristobal did with the play calling, making Beck throw the ball. Beck has thrown 3 interceptions. He's back and pass, and he's rushing the ball out of his hands in a situation where you have 2 timeouts and 36 seconds to go. You could break a run. One of the guys at the game who's a big Canes fan says, why would he try to run the ball and break the run and put himself in a position where it doesn't fall on the quarterback's hands? And I think that's what you thought. The Giants did the same thing with Dart. Putting Dart back to pass when all they had to do was get rid of timeouts and punt. Made the kid make a decision that throws an interception and basically flipped the game. And that's what happened with Penix yesterday. I thought when they threw that ball downfield with 17 seconds to go, they could run and take 3. Instead, they used their last timeout with time left to save a little bit of time to try to go down the field again. And they put the kid in a position where he's got to outthink instead of just throwing the ball. And he's struggling doing it because they're not protecting him. This is the whole thing where you just got to, the coaches are thinking about all these different things. But as an analyst, we could sit there, as a handicap can do this, and sit in our TV room and say, oh, this kid doesn't look right. Like, I can tell you this right now, Jeff. I'm sitting there telling the guy next to me yesterday that McEnamy's going to miss that extra point. You can see it in his face. It's like, it's the Giants. It's what we do. And it's like, he misses 2 extra points in a game.
Can you bet that?
I'll tell you what, you can't get it quick enough because it's on a delay, but that would have been an interesting bet.
Probably getting plus 500 that he misses.
Yeah. And then you're protecting yourself from a win. But it's like, and it's like, that's the thing. It's just, he hits the extra point, we're in overtime, and who knows what happens. And then it's going down the annals of a great game, and you're
taking it well. You're taking it very well for a guy that should be just catatonic today. You're in some kind of Terry Scheidt coma.
Jeff, I got to be honest. It's 1 in 1,605 games that happened. But I tell these guys, if you had told me without our 2-star defensive backs, and we would have an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter against Denver, and we would blow it, do you take that, or do you want to get beat 38-0? I mean, that's the thing. So when you hear Mike Greenberg this morning on Get Up say, for a Giant fan, you still have to feel positive. And Alex Smith is, they got a good quarterback. They have a new around the team. But I don't know that we're going to go see Philadelphia next week after beating them up pretty good. And I know we're going to be more than a 7.5-point dog again. So even though we're playing well, we're still 7-point underdogs in the last 3 games that we're playing. I hope we can bounce back from this. This is going to be a real test to our morale and what kind of character this coaching staff and team has. Right now, early bet, I like Philly.
1,602 consecutive games have been won by teams in the NFL when they had a lead of 18 or more points with 6 or fewer minutes remaining until the Giants blew it yesterday. All right, a lot to talk about here. There's so many different things to cover. We have 2 games tonight in the NFL. After I lost a game of my lifetime, I don't know that anybody wants my prediction on this thing. You did at least call that the Giants would cover the 7 and a hook on various programs, although you didn't say it with the kind of conviction that would make you necessarily recommend this to all of your friends and fans out there. Great ball game tonight from many different perspectives, including a gambling perspective. Tampa Bay at Detroit. I see that line at 6 points right now. Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit has been banged up, but they've been a little bit Jekyll and Hyde-like. This last performance was somewhat mystifying when they got trounced by Kansas City. Kansas City may have found its stride, and, of course, they did get Rashee Rice back, although it's interesting to me that a guy that by all rights should be incarcerated right now. Somehow everybody's like, whoa, he got suspended for 6 games. I mean, the guy should be doing like 6 years in jail for the people that were injured. Not that, look, everybody deserves their shot at it, but let's say that was kind of favorable treatment, was it not? That I think he has to do like 30 days in jail and probably will get that suspended. And people are more worried about the 6 games he suspended in the NFL. But that being said, Kansas City definitely has found its form. They were very, very good against Detroit and then shellacked your Raiders last night. How do they do? I mean, Tampa Bay, great performance by Baker Mayfield so far this year. If your man Jones is not the MVP, people are looking at Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has a poor game tonight, if that puts Daniel Jones ahead. As you said, people know the name Baker Mayfield. That they tend to associate Daniel Jones with being on the old Dolly Parton team, a big-time draft bust, but he's distinguishing himself now. Mayfield, same thing, right? I mean, Mayfield, he could have considered as a number 1 overall pick, not exactly a stellar career until he got to Tampa Bay, and he's really solidified the notion that he is a top NFL quarterback. What do you think about 6 points? Laying 6 points with Detroit tonight, and/or taking Tampa Bay plus the 6 spot.
Well, here's the thing. So when I looked at that line earlier, talking to some Lions fans and listening to my thoughts and going on the show on Bleacher Brothers, that was one of the games we picked, and the line was 5 or 5.5, and I like Detroit. Yep. Now the line's up to 6. Mike Evans has a chance of playing tonight. We don't know about him, but I look at this as saying if they got their wide receivers in the lineup, I think Detroit's got their hands full tonight. And it would make me think that it would come down to it. Baker's going to do something at the end to even get in there. They covered against in the playoff game and beat them last year in Detroit. So there's a little bit of comfort there for the Bucs when they go to Detroit and play this game. You got Brian Branches suspended. I don't know the status of the other 2 DBs, but they get Liam McNeil back, who's a big deal, and I believe Taylor Decker, the left tackle, is going to come in and play. So Detroit should have one of these bounce-back games, and Dan Campbell off a loss has been pretty good over the last couple of years. I just think it's a lot of points, and the line's telling you take Detroit, but I'm not in love with it as I was at 6, as I was earlier, and now when I saw the comeback possibility of Evans playing and other guys. So I think if we're looking at this game, take a hard look at the inactives tonight, see who's going to be playing. If it looks like Tampa's got the receivers back and if Bucky Irvin plays, Tampa could stay in this game. I think it's going to be a good game to watch.
All right, Houston and Seattle, the other ball game. Any thoughts on that one?
I do. I like Seattle. Houston in this game, and I'll tell you why. So McDonald has struggled as home favorite. They got beat earlier by Tampa at home. They got beat by San Francisco at home. That notoriously home field advantage hasn't worked for McDonald. I think he's under 500 in coverage against the spread. I kind of think it all comes down to one little matchup that I think we'll all key in on. Can the Houston offensive line protect? Because they've struggled there. Stroud looks like he runs for his life a lot. But they got a little momentum with the 2 wins, although one against the Ravens and the other one against Tennessee, a lower end quality opponent. But I'm going to take a chances, and I got 3.5, and I got some guys who really are on top of this. I'm going to go with Houston tonight as my pick of the night.
All right, Mike Jones taking the points in both games, following the final words of my late great-grandmother, who told me on her deathbed, she said, Jeff, always take the points. So you're following some great wisdom there from a terrific person. All right, probably saw one of the greatest performances I've ever seen by an athlete in any sport in any single game, especially under the circumstances. As now the Dodgers were up 3-0 in this, so it wasn't like there was an overwhelming amount of pressure. They had some games to play with, and even another one at home should they have lost that game 4. Ohtani's on the mound. We'd seen Ohtani progress throughout the regular season from the early stages. First, they had him throwing an inning coming back from Tommy John 2 years back, not pitching all of last year while he has, a 55 home run season, just incredible, and steals 50-plus bases. The guy clearly making a case that he may be, indeed, the greatest all-around baseball player ever. And then he does this. 3 home runs, one out of Dodger Stadium. I think Vince Scully caught the ball in heaven somewhere. And then lights out performance over 6+. Amazing. The third home run, when he hit that, you just about fell out of your chair. And the Dodgers end up sweeping their series against your team, the Milwaukee Brewers, who had a good year. I mean, by any standard, we're the best team in baseball record-wise regular season. Managed to get to that point, and then we're no match for the Dodgers. Starting pitching was sensational, and Ohtani, who was ice cold in the postseason for the most part, then goes out and does a Reggie Jackson. Talk about Mr. October. Have you ever seen anything like this? I don't know what's comparable to. I mean, you think about great games that were played by athletes in spotlight moments. I guess Michael Jordan's flu game, comes to mind with the schwitz rolling off of his face there, and he's gassed the whole time, and he still goes for like 50 points. You've seen great performances by athletes in many sports, and your tendency is to think that the most recent one, you're as good as your last film. What was the best of all? But I don't know what was comparable to that. The guy.
I'll give you three. I'll give you three and two. Let me give you three in two sports.
Okay.
I wasn't alive for it, but Wilt's 100 had to be something else. But it was a dominant against dominant. I saw Kobe's 81 live at night. I thought Kobe's 81 against Toronto was one of the most amazing performances I had seen ever. And then I'll go with Gale Sayers. He had the 6 touchdowns and receiving punt like back in the Chicago Bear days. I wasn't around for that one, but all the stories. How could a guy do that? Would have to say the best individual performances. But I think you put this guy at the top. This was watching that. I fiddled in. I saw the second home run. I go back. You get into his at bats. As bad as he's been playing, I mean, look at what led up to this. Did he wait for one night to do this? Did he wait a bitch? Because the guy's hitting less than 200. You're thinking he's not even the top 5 players in baseball now, let alone.
Yeah, he was
and then all of a sudden you get a game like that where he bounces out of it. The triple might have got him going in game 3, and then all of a sudden, bang, you got a night like that, and I'm sitting there and we're texting. I got a baseball thread, and we're all sitting there in awe going, he's the greatest. And my buddy, who really understands the game for some 50 years and coaching for over 40, said the same thing. This is the best baseball player he's ever seen by far. Bonds, and he also was a guy who discovered Carlos Beltran. And he said he was the best 5'2" player he'd ever seen. Told me stories of him doing things in the minor leagues you wouldn't believe. But he said nothing compares to this guy. And I'm going to listen to him because he knows more than I know about baseball. And he was in awe. And that'll tell you something. When a guy who's in his 60s that's been around baseball all the time was in awe. So.
No, it was great. And if you look at the Dodgers starting pitchers and the way they're performing right now, Blake Snell lights out, Yamamoto lights out, Glass now pitching very well, and then Ohtani looking great. Hard to imagine that they won't be heavy favorites over either team that emerges. Yeah. This is probably the most overworked cliche. Every babe with plastic breasts and big lips that are enhanced by collagen and hair extensions on TV is always saying, well, the greatest 2 words in sports are Game 7. Mm-hmm. And as much as that has become cliche, it still rings true that you have to love the excitement of it and the fact that everything's on the table. It's a winner take all, and you have Toronto going against Seattle. This has been a great series back and forth. Yeah. Momentum swings have been pretty wild. Seattle wins the first 2 games on the road. Toronto comes back and starts blasting the ball all over the field in Seattle. They do lose Game 5 and bounce back and win last night in handy fashion. What do you make of this one? Who's going to be opposing the Dodgers after tonight's Game 7?
Well, they got Bieber for a reason. This might be the reason why they got him. I mean, this is the start. He pitched a little better, but I know according to my baseball people, his velocity isn't what it has been. He's still coming off the injury. I kind of like him at home tonight. I think it's going to be really tough. A jacked up Toronto crowd for Seattle to go in there knowing what they let go, a 2-0 lead early and go play. I think Toronto gets a little bit of jump. Seattle's going to need to get off to a good start in this game. I don't think they make a comeback, but what do I know? The low favorite. I think Toronto's a 120 favorite, and the game makes sense. Line's right. Should be a great game. Let's watch. And then, of course, the NFL tries to take it all away from him with 2 great games in the NFL tonight. But we'll be flipping back and forth or split screening the TVs. But, yeah, it should be a pretty good game. I don't really have much of a play on it. I think if I had to lean, I'd lean Toronto. But it's going to be great watching.
Should be fun. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I love this hustling superstar. Guy that really gets into it. Now, every now and then, you're thinking he's going to get stuck at home plate with a single off a ball, on a ball that gets off the wall there, because he does do a little bit of posing. But, wow, we're running the bases. He's had 2 of the most exciting plays in the postseason in terms of base running. That all-out Superman dive into home plate in the previous series, and then this steal of third, or well, he takes off on a pass ball and then ends up jogging home pretty much after one of 3 errors by the Mariners, very uncharacteristic in that game last night. I'm thinking this one goes 20 innings, and if I get my wish, Alejandro Kirk, the diminutive catcher. I don't want to use words like midget or whatever, but he really does look like he would come into a Vince McMahon, not junior, but senior midget wrestling match to fight Sky Low or something.
Great.
I think they run out of pitching in the 20th inning, and they throw. My dream would be to see Alejandro Kirk go out to the mound there, take the catcher's gears off, and close out the ball game with a 40-mile-an-hour volley floater.
That's great.
But yeah, it should be a lot of fun tonight. You're leaning towards Toronto. Toronto against the Dodgers in a World Series.
No.
I don't know what
5
the
games.
will be, but
5 games. Toronto gets one. Toronto's to get one. The pitcher's going to dominate. The Dodgers were set up for this. All they had to do was they struggled with the pen. They're avoiding their pen. They're playing baseball the way it should be played. Let their starters go more than they would have normally gone now. You know, I mean, Ohtani gives up 2 base runners in the 7th, and they get out of it. Then you start seeing their pens getting better. It's all lining up for the Dodgers to go with this again. So, you know, maybe
it was about due to come out of there, though. I think he was right around 100 pitches at that point. So
yeah.
You know, that made some sense, and maybe he was starting to lose it a little bit, but
Sure.
it worked out. The Sasaki has worked out of the pen as a closer. You would have to think all signs are pointing towards the Los Angeles Dodgers celebrating back-to-back World Championships in Major League Baseball. All right, Mike, I'm glad you're okay. I really was concerned about you. I thought years of therapy would not be enough to wring the Bill Parcells ties and your big gunner instincts after an horrendous loss yesterday. But the fact that you found a silver lining in it, I think you really ought to start giving public speeches to Dolphin fans.
You know, real quick, if I go back to my experience with the team, we came off a 3-12-1 season in '83. But in '84, we didn't have any of these kind of roller coaster type game seasons. You know, when we lost to a better team. It was a close game. We were, you know, and it was tough. We didn't have these highs and lows. I think we had one comeback win that whole year against Kansas City. That was a big win for us. We're down 13 with 4 minutes to go and came back and won. You know, it just doesn't happen as often as it happens today. And I wonder why that is. Is it the way the NFL is lined up for exciting games and the clock management and the timeout situation and the 2-minute warning, all the stuff that happens, there's more to it. And I think that's what makes the NFL so exciting. And my silver lining is if you told me again, if I got a chance to win that game at the end or lose by a field goal at the buzzer going into that game Saturday, I would have said, hey, I'll take it. So I feel there's some positives for it, but I don't think we're going to get over this one fast. I hope we don't have a hangover this Sunday in Philly.
It's a tough time here in our hometown of Miami, too. I was making a little.
Does McDaniel make it through the week? That was my question.
I told the guy that no matter what happened in the Cleveland game, they won't fire him. And if you notice this, there is no presence whatsoever from anybody. I think Caroline Leavitt has become the spokesman for the Miami Dolphins, and she's going to spin this so that it's all on the Democrats, that it's their fault. But Miami has the Dolphins at 1-6. The Canes lose to Louisville, an unranked team. Losing their chance at an undefeated season and exposing them perhaps for being a little bit fraudulent as being ranked as high as number 2 in the country. Florida Gators win, and they still fire their coach, Billy Napier. The Florida State Seminoles embarrass themselves and lose to lowly Stanford on the road. Florida Panthers get off to a 3-0 start in the NHL and now have lost 4 in a row, including getting shut out by Buffalo, the lowly Sabres. And the Heat went through the preseason without a single victory.
You know, one thing I'll say for the gamblers out here.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on Stanford. You got Andrew Luck out there. I was very impressed with what Stanford did. They've always been physical. You got Frank Reich, who's an NFL head coach and a quarterback guy out there. Their problem has been their quarterback play, the kids' decision-making. Other than that, they've been in games. They blew a game in Hawaii. I mean, like they just, you know, things that they're doing are coming around. So keep an eye on Stanford because they're going to be a big underdog in a lot of these games for some covers. And that game against Florida State might have turned their program.
And again, I have to reiterate, I would have to reassess my desire and my stated professional goals in my high school yearbook. The greatest thing that could ever happen to you people, and train your children to do this, whether it's male or female, because there'll be some female head coaches in football at some point in time down the road. Make sure that you want them to aspire to be a failed college football coach. $21 million for Napier, $49 million for James Franklin. Other guys have gotten millions of dollars, $6, $8, $10 million. Pales in comparison to these last two firings. Mike Norvell's buyout is some sensational number. Florida State Seminole backers are trying desperately to raise the money to get rid of him. And that's the way to go. I mean,
let me ask you this, Jeff. One question. Have you ever seen it? If I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to figure this out. Florida beats Texas. It was the preseason number one.
You don't see a guy get fired after a win.
And then he beats Mississippi State, which has been competitive in a lot of games this year. And then they fire him then. So my thought is James Franklin the new coach of Florida? Because of what happened at Penn State, did they get rid of him and thinking we're going to bring this guy in? He's got SEC ties at Vanderbilt. Why did Napier go at that point?
Maybe availability. I guess the other thing would be it's great to be Lane Kiffin right now because he, like Gruden, is now associated with every job opening that pops up.
Yeah. And they asked an ex-Gator player about Gruden, and he was saying, "Yeah, it's nice, but it's a temporary fix."
Probably not.
He didn't want him. So there's some things going on there that, to me, that are just deeper. That with Gruden, that maybe I don't know where he's going to go, but now that he's opened up the window through Barstool that talk about this openly, and we're going to see if these college institutions want to take him on. It's a very interesting time in all sports, and Colorado State loses their coach. When do we start firing coaches in the middle of college football? You never really seen this happen until this year. It's very weird.
You're wondering if Phil makes it through season number one. All right, Mike, always a pleasure, my friend. I'm glad you're okay, and we'll join you again tomorrow here on Bury Your Bookie. Always a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. For Mike Jones, the big gunner, and it should be an exciting podcast tomorrow.
Pam, we're going to break it all down.
Right here on nofilter.net. Mention that stat about the 1,602 games that have happened successfully and in succession, that nobody's blown a lead like that of that magnitude in the NFL until now. And until then, when you can join me tomorrow here on Bury Your Bookie and Mike right after that on No Filter with the Big Gunner podcast. For Mike, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time on the next edition of Bury Your Bookie.